Hi Nitin, it's 2 o'clock, but shall we wait for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
People are still joining, I think.
Yeah. We will give another 5 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
COC being 20.
Anything? Should we start? 205 now.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Welcome back again. Good afternoon. I hope I have been finding the sessions useful. So now we start. So we're all about to start the student-led sessions now. So today in the afternoon we have two very important and useful sessions. The first one will be on how do you sort of prepare and apply for PhD programs. This will be led by Nitin Saxena, who is a PhD student at Center for Ecological Sciences IISc, and Mihir, who is also a PhD student who has just joined the PhD program. It's in the first half of the program. Nitin, do you have anybody else also participating from the student group?
No, it's just two of us.
So in the second half, I'll do one thing. I'll mute everyone and then unmute myself. Okay, that's right. So in the second half, we have a workshop on what does it mean to be a PhD student? What kind of daily routine does a PhD student have? How is it different from a, let's say, being a BSc student or an MSc student? And what are the challenges? What are the opportunities? What are the fun and sort of frolic of being a PhD student? So we will learn about all of those in the second half of the session. So now over to Nitin and Mihir. Do you need to be made co-hosts, right? Both of you are using presentations. So I think Arun has
he has already done that. Yeah.
Very good. So so you can take up to 320 to 325, Nitin. So, but 5 minutes here and there shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll maybe have a 10-minute break in between the two sessions.
Okay.
So we are all ready now. So over to you, Nitin. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone. Hope you are enjoying the sessions that you have been attending so far. This is on a little different trajectory. So while
Can you
the
switch on the
initial,
video if possible,
yeah,
Nitin?
I'm doing.
Thank you. Both of you actually. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
Nitin and Mihir.
Hi, everyone. So as I was saying, I'm hoping that you all were enjoying the sessions that you have attended so far. And while those sessions were very academically inclined and taught you a lot of new things, perhaps, for some of you, certainly new, and for some of you, it was a refresher. Today's session is more on the lines of taking you to the journey of how things goes from being the stage that you are to a stage where you are actually enrolling into a PhD program. So for that, Mihir and I will be trying to take you on a journey, a small journey, not a long one, and tell you about the different things that you need to consider while you are thinking of doing a PhD. Okay, so that starts from. Okay, can somebody confirm if they can see the slides?
Yes, we need to make it full screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
it's fine now. Yes.
so this is a little bit more interactive session, and if you like, you can actually unmute yourself at any time and ask us anything, or you can also use the chat box as you have been using so far. And with that, let's start. So what is a PhD? This is a question from our end to you, and we would like to hear your views about it first before we tell you that what we think PhD is. So anybody can unmute and tell us what they think PhD is. Anybody? Uh, okay, let me see the chat. Um, I can't open the chat.
It can be a bit challenging if you have also made full screen.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay, fine. Yeah, I will.
Mihir can read out. That's better, right? You can
Yes.
Mihir can read out, and then you
Yeah.
can be on full screen. Yeah.
So Ayush says it's a research oriented approach where we try to create knowledge rather than just mugging what's already been out there.
Wow, great. Anybody else? Okay, so maybe we will hear back from everybody a little later. So our understanding of research is PhD is that it is a research-oriented program that is driven mostly by self-motivation and excitement towards the research field that you think that uh, excites you or gives you the pleasure of finding new questions and answering those questions. Or it also requires a great understanding between the supervisor and the student. It's not your alone journey, it's a journey that you take along with your supervisor. Uh, and unlike your bachelor's and master's program, where most of the answers to the questions can be found in the books, as Ayush mentioned, that PhD requires you to find the answer on your own of the questions that you are going to ask during the duration of your PhD. There's a lot of decision making involved in a PhD program, and it's not only just about what question you're going to answer or what supervisor you are going to work with, but it also involves a lot of decision making about how your work will be structured, what kind of technique you are going to use, what kind of funds do you need for doing that kind of a work, and lot of admin related, administration related decision making also is required, like taking permits from field work, or deciding the right set of programs that you need for your computational skills. So there is a lot of decision making, and it also involves a lot of variety of skill development. You become like a manager, you do a job of a manager as well when you're managing your lab. You also become like a representative or a host of events. You organize a lot of different events, or participate in a lot of events. You conduct workshops, you participate in workshops. So you learn those skills. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to present your work in different organizations, different conferences, uh, and how to do the coursework as well. And you do a lot of multitasking also, because you're not just doing your research work, but you're also participating in the departmental events. You are also arranging your field work, and simultaneously, as you take further steps in your PhD, you also find yourself helping other students in their journey of academia. Uh, so that means, because you are doing so many things, you have to learn how to do the time management. That comes very surprisingly, it's a very difficult task to do at times. And also, because you are doing so many things and it is so uncertain in at certain points, there is a natural uh, possibility of you getting a bit stressed. And then how you manage your stress, that is also something you will learn in the course of your PhD. So your PhD kind of trains you for that. In comparison to any job or any master's program or any bachelor's program that you might be right now, which has a proper structure, you know what you have to do at certain hours of the day, PhD is comparatively less structured. From the initial first year of your coursework, afterwards, the journey is pretty much in your hand. So you, as I said in the first sentence, that you have to be very self-motivated, because there is a possibility of you to determine what you want to do at what times. Okay, so there is very less structure in that sense. And more about this will be covered in the session that is right after our session, that is life as a PhD student, where my friends from the department will be telling you about the different aspects that you go through as a PhD student. So here's a cute cartoon for you. So it talks about a candidate who is going for an interview, and the person who is interviewing this candidate, Mr. Mike, asked him, "So your CV is your resume is very impressive, but I think you made a typo. It says here you started the grad school in the 1980s." Then he's like, so yeah." Then Mr. Mike says, "Yeah, that's a mistake." Then the interviewer is asking, "What's the mistake? It's that the typo that you have made there, or it is that you started grad school?" So the idea behind this joke is this, that most of the times, because we think that it's a logical next step in our academia that we do BSc, MSc, and then enroll in a PhD, we forget to ask ourselves at that point, why do we want to do PhD? Do we really need to do a PhD? And if that question is not clear in our mind and we get into a PhD program, then the journey becomes even more difficult. So it becomes very important for us at the beginning only to ask this question: why do I want to do a PhD? Do I need to do a PhD? It should not be peer driven. It should not be that everybody around me is doing it, so why not I? No, it's your own personal decision to make whether you want to do it, and why you want to do it are the questions you need to ask before you join a PhD program, rather than at the end of it, that why did I do a PhD? Okay. So here are few reasons that may motivate you to do a PhD. The first, and actually the most important reason, should be that the research fascinates you. So the kind of research that you want to do your PhD, that itself is fascinating enough for you to motivate you to do the PhD. PhD also, as I said, because it is doing a lot of skill development for you, it is also providing you a lot of life skills. It Similarly, it also, because of all that, it increases your receptivity, your comprehension ability, logical and deductive reasoning, and it also helps you gain a perspective on a very wide range of topics. So while your PhD is a very focused study on your research topic, it does not remain associated to that research topic alone. You learned a huge deal of things about lot of other topics, lot of other aspects of life, philosophically, socially, economically, and academically. You become a new person. There is a huge personal growth that is involved during those 5 years of your PhD. So that alone can. Uh, Manisha, can you mute yourself, please? Uh, Thank you. So that it alone can be reason for you to do PhD. And okay, so for some of them at certain stage of time, we also ask ourselves, no, where are we financially? Are we financially independent or not? So if you are enrolling into a PhD program through a scholarship, then yes, it is also a paid learning opportunity. And how good of a paid learning opportunity it is, so it depends on what kind of a scholarship you have got into. Most of the general scholarships now in the current year, the amount that you get is around 32,000 for the first 2 years. And once you actually register with your comprehension, we will talk about that a little bit later, that it increases in the next 3 years to 35,000 rupees, which is a reasonable amount given that you are still in a way student and you are getting that handsome amount to do studies. So that itself can be motivating to do further studies. And to add the perk, and government has started this new fellowship, which you can apply after getting into a PhD program, that is the Pradhan Mantri Research Fellowship, which if you clear the interviews and whatever different rounds do they have, you monthly stipend of yours is 75,000 rupees, which is far better than any job that you may get in corporate world. So that also can be very motivating for some of you. Other than that, you also have to see what happens post PhD. So in terms of job after PhD, lot of research and development sectors in most of the corporate actually demand for a PhD. Most academic jobs also, if you apply as a faculty in any of the colleges, that also requires you to have PhD. Nowadays, even the simplest scientist position in any research institute or a teaching position in any PU college or even schools ask you to have a PhD. And more about what you can do in after doing a PhD will be covered in careers in ecology session that will happen next week for you. Again, it's a student yet and experts led session. So that would be very great if you want to understand what are the possibilities for you after doing a PhD, what more can you do? And there are these two links that may also give you some perspective on doing a PhD, why you need to do a PhD and things like that. Okay. So with that, Mihir will start now uh, telling you about how do you know that you want to do a PhD. So Mihir, can you take over? Yeah. I will stop sharing and then you can share.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. I'll just share in a moment.
Okay, while Mihir is sharing the presentation, let me answer this question by Abhishek. Is PMRF only for applied research? No, it's not only for applied research. It is open for any research rather. But yes, they may ask you in the interview that what is the application of the work that you are doing. And that is something that you can discuss with your supervisor beforehand and prepare for the interview accordingly. Okay.
Can someone confirm whether they can see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Mihir. And the aim of my part of this talk is to sort of give you an idea about what options do you have depending on different stages that you'll be in your career. So, but before going to that, before going to what options you have for doing PhD, I just want to go touch upon the point that Nitin made about why you should do a PhD. And one of the most important things is, whether it fascinates you, whether you find something really interesting that you're willing to spend a lot of time doing research on that. But how do you know that you're actually interested in something or whether something fascinates you? So there are different things that inspire different people. And uh, I know a lot of people who started out just by uh, going out in nature, going for nature trails, going for treks, and that got them started on photography, things like that. And they eventually got really interested in uh, doing research on wildlife or animals in general or plants. The other thing is, some people find reading very inspiring. My slide isn't changing. Yeah, and reading could involve these topic-based books, which are sort of, biblical for students of ecology and evolution. Or reading could also involve other sort of extracurricular books. Like, just to give you an example, for me, reading these books was really inspirational when I was doing my bachelor's. Of course, I mean, I didn't decide to do a PhD after reading these books, but these books definitely pushed me to, look for more research opportunities, look for people who are actually working in the field and contact them and work with them and so on. Which brings me to my third point, which is a very important point. And all of us at CES, recommend people who are applying for PhD students to get some sort of research experience. And this research experience could be at different levels, right? You can do, you can volunteer in some project. You can be an intern of either in your summer break, during your bachelor's, or between the break, in the break between your bachelor's and master's, and so on. Or project assistantships, which you can do post your bachelor degree. And one way to do it is to write to people whose research you find interesting. So, I mean, nowadays you have the entire profile of researchers on every institute's website, and you can go and see what people are working on in different institutes. And if you find some of that research interesting, you can actually write to people and ask whether you can go and work with them, get some experience. And one of the things is you won't be able to get your own project immediately. People might ask you to, shadow some of the students, which means that you can, work with other PhD students, follow them around and see what they're doing, learn from what they're doing, how they're designing experiments and so on. Then you can assist in some of the projects, and eventually you can potentially do your own projects. I mean, just to give you an example, when I was doing my bachelor's, after first year, I wrote to Dr. Maria Thakur at CES for an internship, a summer internship for 2 months. And she asked me to shadow a few of her students, which eventually led to me learning a lot of different skills involved in research. And then I could then eventually start working on my own project or helping out, assisting other PhD students and so on. Now, this is really important because before working on uh, research areas, before working on projects in research, are, I mean, at least my idea about what ecology is was completely different. I thought ecology is just going out in field, going to different places and observing animals and taking down notes. But once I started working on a project, I really understood that, that's not it. We also do a very thorough literature survey. We pose questions which are not known, and then we try and design experiments to answer these questions. So uh, these experiences that you gain working with experts in the field will not only help you sort of decide for yourself whether you're interested in doing PhD, but it will also equip you with skills which you can eventually use in your own PhD or in your own research. Now, this is where you sort of contact people that you're interested in. There are other options to get this experience. One is the summer research fellowships that the Indian Academies of Science, it's a fellowship program that happens every year. And it's a summer research fellowship that happens for 2 months every summer. I've given you a link here, but I think the deadline for application for this year is over. But you can always keep an eye out on internship opportunities for next year. Through this program, you can do summer internships in these major research institutes in India. Other platform where you can get to know of these different opportunities to get experience is meetyeti.net. So they have a mailing list to which you have to register on this website, and they keep posting you about different research opportunities that are available throughout the country. Now, once you have the idea of, or once you're sure about getting into research, and once you're sure that this is something that you're really interested in, then the next question is, what are your options and when can you take this decision? So this is something I've just tried to illustrate like a typical stage by stage progression of any researcher in India. So you can either take this decision after your bachelor's or your master's or your PhD. And that's how we usually, most of the people get into their PhDs, right? Now, this is a link. I don't know whether you can see my cursor. I'll just turn the... Anyways, so there's a link at the bottom of the slide, which in detail gives all the options that are available to you in India for PhD in ecology, or PhD in general, I think. And you also have a lot of details about the scholarships that are available, how much do they pay, depending on which city you are, etc. So I would really recommend you to check this out. Now, depending on which stage of the career you are right now, you have several options. If you're deciding to do your PhD after your bachelor's, there are 2 ways you can do that. One is to get into a master's program, after which you can apply for a PhD. Or the second option, which is a relatively new option, is to get into integrated programs, which have integrated MS PhDs. Now, the difference between these two is master's programs typically are fairly theoretical, and you have 1.5 to 2 years of heavy coursework, and then you have maybe 6 months to a year of dissertation. Integrated PhD, integrated MS PhD programs, on the other hand, they do have coursework for 3 to 4 semesters, but in the meanwhile, it is expected of you to uh, rotate, that is to go and work in 3-4 different labs throughout those 2 years, the initial 2 years, and carry out research projects in these 3-4 labs to get a better idea of what kind of work suits you, what kind of research suits you, whether you like it, and so on. The difference here is integrated MS PhD. In integrated MS PhD, you are also given fellowships, which I think slightly varies between institutes, but it's fairly constant. And if you're doing your masters and you want to look for options after your masters, then you can go for PhD programs in which you typically have 1 or 2 semesters of coursework. And then you work as, you are a JRF, which is Junior Research Fellow, for 2 years. And after a comprehensive exam, you have 3 years as Senior Research Fellow. The detailed structure of which you'll get to know in the next workshop. Now, PhDs also are paid, and that, as Nitin said, that's one of the differences between your bachelor's and master's programs versus integrated PhD and PhD programs, where this is not just your school where you do coursework and learn about stuff. You also do research and you get paid as fellowships. Now, these are, I've tried to compile a few options at each stage, but this is by no means an exhaustive list, but these are some of the main courses that I thought are relevant for ecology. So for masters, as you can see, if you are interested to do a master's in zoology or botany, almost all central and state universities have those courses. But there are specialized courses for, say, wildlife science in the Wildlife Institute of India, Kuvempu University in Shimoga, and so on. There's wildlife biology and conservation. So, maybe you can take a screenshot of this, as this is a list and this can be useful for you. And the minimum eligibility is each of these courses usually have a separate entrance exam of their own, and they require you to have like 60+% in your bachelor's. Again, this is generally the case, but it might slightly vary between courses. Now, moving on to integrated MS PhD programs in India, you can do that in all the ISERs. At IISc in Bangalore, Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research in Bangalore, JNCSR that is, and NCBS in Bangalore. Now, for integrated PhD programs, you can get into these by 2 main entrance exams. One is JAM, which is conducted by IITs and IISc, and JG PILS, which is conducted by TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And once you clear these exams, then there are 1 or 2 rounds, depending on which institute, of interviews, after which you get admitted to this program. I don't remember exactly, but I think in most of the integrated PhD programs, the fellowship that you get is somewhere around 15,000. It might slightly vary between institutes. And then if you are in your master's, or if you've done 4 years of bachelor's, which is BE or BS or BTech, then you're eligible to directly apply for PhD programs. Again, some of these main institutes I've listed here, you can take a screenshot if you want. Apart from these, you also have a lot of state and central universities in which you can uh, enroll for a PhD. I think so the eligibility for it is, again, you have to give these entrance exams like CSIR net, UGC net, GATE, JG Bills, DBT, JRF, etc., and which is again followed by generally 2 rounds of interviews. Now, an important thing to keep in mind here is that uh, admission in most of these major institutes will also give you fellowship, but in many universities, admission doesn't necessarily give you fellowships. So if you clear the interview rounds or the entrance exam or whatever, and if you get admitted to a PhD program in some university, uh, you still have to clear uh, either CSIR net or Inspire or UGC net in order for you to get monthly fellowships. So this is something that you should keep in mind. But in most of these, as I said, most of these major institutes, major research institutes in India, admission also ensures fellowship. So how do you apply to these places? So there are different, as I said, different competitive exams that one must give and clear. Uh, some of these are CSIR net or UGC net. Now these are the central government exams, which qualify you to make you eligible to apply for a PhD in all institutes and all universities in India. If you clear CSIR net or UGC net, you are also eligible for lecturerships. GATE Ecology Evolution, which is also considered in most of the institutes for if you're getting into a PhD in ecology, and also in several universities. And others such as Inspire, JG Bills, DBT, JRF, ICMR. These are some of the exams which some universities or institutes consider for admission. While, I mean, you have to keep an eye out on whether these exams are considered for admission. Now, after competitive exams, I mean, this is again generally in most cases, people are shortlisted based on their exam scores, that is either scores or ranks or whatever, and their CV, their application letter, and so on. After which you have to clear 2 rounds of interviews generally. And once you clear that, in most of the research institutes, you have to choose a supervisor. Now this can either be I mean, you can either talk to the supervisor earlier on and then that can happen, or after clearing interviews you can give 3 options and then you can rotate into the lab and see, and that way. So yeah, this is all from me. After, I mean, this is just, I tried to give you like an overview of all the options that are available for you guys, depending on at what stage of education you are in right now. Now to clear these competitive exams and interviews, you have to prepare, and that the part of preparation and some of the tricks will be discussed by Nitin again. So I'll hand it to you, Nitin.
Hi. Thanks, Mihir. So I think this is a good break for us to ask if you have any kind of questions so far with whatever we have discussed. Please feel free to ask, or anything else that you have in mind which you feel like you need to discuss here. We can, discuss that right now, and then we can go to the remaining part of the session. So anything anybody has to ask?
I think Deepali has raised her hand. You can ask, Deepali.
Actually, I am in my MSc second year, major in environmental sciences, and being a student of second year, so I have approached so many scientists for the internship purpose, but I didn't get any revert mail from their side. So uh, because of that, I thought like I have done something wrong in my way of approaching them. So is there a particular way to approach them so that you can be selected for the same?
That's a very good question, Dipali. Actually, I understand your feeling that not getting a response to be taken as something that you have done wrong. No, that's not true. As Mihir already mentioned in his slide, that uh, applying and not getting a response does not mean that it is lacking on your part. At times, most of these professors get a lot of these applications, and it becomes very overwhelming for them also to respond to everybody. So that is one thing, and many of these labs actually do not have positions all the time, and they do not want to and say yes to somebody and then later on say that we do not have enough work for you to learn, or the lab is not equipped for you. So they choose not to respond, and I agree that actually a small response would help, but imagine replying to thousand and thousand plus applications on daily basis. It becomes very challenging. So do not take it personally that there is something wrong in your application or your potential in that sense. But yeah, there are few general tips that we can give you in terms of writing. So when you are writing to any professor, please do mention few things. One, what is the duration that you will be available? Why you are interested in their lab? What you have done so far that may help you uh, build on. Because if you have no background of what their lab is doing, which is fine, as long as you clearly mention that you're willing to learn and why you are interested in the work that they are doing. Have you looked into the work that the lab is doing? These are the few things if you mention in while drafting the mail, from where you are coming, and are you looking for a paid internship, or are you okay volunteering for free, and are you okay for the field work, and what are the things that interest you in general, why are you applying for this? So these are the few it's, I know it's a kind of a thing that you would expect that later on in the mail, in during conversation, you can uh, decide. But for a professor to decide whether to even uh, respond to you comes from the interest that you show in their work, right? And you are really motivated in doing something, because as I said, entire research work is self motivated. So they do not want somebody to come and then expect a proper step by step mentoring into doing things. So your mail should be showing that interest in the lab as well as the work that the lab is doing. Okay, so that is something that you can keep in mind when you are applying next time. But again, if you don't get response, that does not mean, I'm emphasizing again, does not mean any, it does not respond on your potential. You have full potential, and sooner or later you will definitely get it. Okay. So I got two questions here. uh,
I can't read the chat. Can you?
okay, I will do it. In my opinion, there is no set definition of PhD. However, it is the highest academic degree one can get. Okay, that's okay. I think that's before. Yeah. So then Abhinav is asking, will it be a good decision to drop 1 year and then get into some good institutes if you have not get in your choice of institute in the first attempt? Yes, if your other life conditions are not holding you back, maybe financial or any other reasons, if that is not holding you back, then it is okay for you to take a break, do something in that break. Like, it should not be a complete break just to apply in some good institutes. You can utilize that break to do some small project with some lab of your interest, or in the field do some volunteering work or a paid internship, whatever opportunity you are getting. Try to grab that kind of opportunity and use that opportunity to give you also some clarity and make you gain some experience. Because I was about to say that in a further slides, but I will say now itself, that during interviews, when you meet your supervisors in any institute, they actually desire some experience from you. If you're coming with some amount of experience, that shows that you are committed to the field and you know what you're going to do. You have gained some skills and you are coming with a prepared mind. So if you are comfortable, do, after your entire education, bachelor's or master's has been done, if you're comfortable giving a break of a year and utilize that to gain these kind of opportunities, then that would be great. I'm telling this from my personal experience. Honestly speaking, I knew that I wanted to do PhD, but my inclination was in a very different field when I thought that I want to do PhD. And I was interested in neurobiology, hardcore neurobiology. And then I got this opportunity under Dr. Vishesha Guttal, who gave talk yesterday. And just coming to the lab and gaining that experience after my BTech, uh, that changed my mind completely about how I was thinking about behavior, attending the courses, what Maria covered today in the morning. Uh, so that course itself changed my view about animal behavior, my view about neurobiology, and became so interested that I was like, okay, this is the department I want to be doing my PhD in. And all my previously thought plans changed completely. So that is the impact of a good opportunity like that I got luckily under Dr. Vishesha Guttal. So these things change the path of your journey towards academia. It completely tells you what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what interests you, what doesn't interest you. Because from a bachelor or a master's level, how we see the science is very different when you enter into a PhD program and how you see science then. Because there, till now, you were believing everything that was taught to you. In PhD, you're challenging everything that is given to you. You have to ask why it is and why it is like that. So that thought process can only come when you gain some experience. So it is completely fine to do that. Okay.
And just one more thing to add, I think I forgot who asked the question, but like there's no fixed trajectory for everyone in research. Look, there's no one right path that everyone has to follow. Like I mean, like right now we might be sounding as if we have had it all, figured out and we knew all these options, but no, we've also come through trial and error. Like just to give you an example, I had enrolled after my bachelor's, I had enrolled myself for a master's program in Pune University. And after 1 year, I decided to drop it because I thought, it's not researchy enough. And then I got myself into the INT PhD program at ISER Pune. But then I realized that my heart really lied in field ecology and behavioral ecology. So I decided to drop that and come here finally for a PhD. So I mean, taking a break, or even if you don't if even if you think that your year is wasted, it doesn't matter as long as you know what you want to do, and if you're trying towards that. When I wanted to emphasize this in my slides, but I think I couldn't do it enough.
Really loving the kind of questions we are getting here. One of the question is by Sultan Nazir, and he asked how well does PhD application in India accommodate people who did interdisciplinary studies in bachelor's and master's. It's an amazing question, and I can't really vouch for all the institutes in the country. Uh, I can tell for CS because I'm here that CS is the most open interdisciplinary department that you will ever come across. We have electrical engineering student who did their BTech in electrical engineering coming and joining in PhD in ecology. We have computer science students. We have people coming from corporate, dropping corporate after doing certain years of work in corporate sector, and then coming and joining a PhD in ecology and evolution. We have people from mechanical engineering coming in the department. So it's a sector where anybody who is interested in wildlife anybody is interested in asking questions pertaining to ecology and evolution is welcomed. As long as, yes, as long as you clear your uh, suitable exams, like you write your gate or you write your CSIR, and for which, yes, you have to prepare. And it, given that you are coming from a different field, it becomes a little challenging to prepare for those exams for you because you're studying totally different. But if you're interested, I think you should do it. There is no harm in giving it an attempt. And if you are a little unsure about it, so as I said, again, you can always volunteer, you can always go for an internship or a project assistance, uh, and gain some experience of the field before you actually jump to the decision of joining a PhD program, if you're coming from an interdisciplinary field, so that you get the idea of the field. But yes, if you are coming from interdisciplinary studies, it gives you a very good niche, a very good domain for yourself to learn and contribute to the field from bringing the expertise of yours from the field that you have studied your bachelor's or master's in. Okay. So the next question is by Shruti Samantha. As I have JRF now, but I don't have any experience in field, so it is difficult to apply for post like project assistance. Yes, it is a little tricky to apply for post project assistance, but if you have a JRF, so you can write to the supervisor that you already have a grant, and a lot of these funding that comes also when like suppose as a supervisor has got some funds to hire somebody for project assistance, some of these funds ask them that they can only hire somebody who has a JRF. So you have a upper advantage. You just have to apply aggressively. When I mean aggressively means apply to a lot of different places at the same time, so that at least in one of the places you get through. And don't forget to mention this clearly that you already have a JRF. It's a very big star on your profile, so please highlight it. Okay.
And it also helps to know all the options that you have. A lot of these positions that are advertised in on Yeti or a lot of these platforms don't really, I mean, not all the positions require you to have experience in that field. There are also projects where you can start afresh, so you can look for those opportunities. And that is why I gave you this link, which is really useful, and I would really suggest that you go on it. It's called meetyeti.net, and you can register for their on the mailing list, and they circulate all sorts of opportunities on there.
Okay. So the next question is GATE EY compulsory for research? Okay, if you're just asking for CES, then no, you can come in CES through Life Science GATE as well. Okay. And Biswaroop sir is, I think that's the same question, isn't it? To be selected in interview, if yes, what should be the minimum cutoff? Cutoff ranks are something that differs from year to year. Generally, I think the top 100 or top 50 candidates are called.
Yeah.
Can you mute? So I think that comes in the. They are called for interview. Can you tell anything important? Yes, we will cover that, Supriya. I think we have a lot of questions. I am a second year master's in zoology at a state university. Currently, due to pandemic, I wasn't able to gain some research experience. So even if I somehow clear entrance eligibility exam, can I stand off those interview for PhD which demand prior? No. So when I said about experience, it's not like it's a mandate that you need to have. If your concepts are clear, you may clear, you have a good chance of clearing your interview. But yeah, if you have some experience, it is desired. So you do stand a chance of clearing your interview without having any experience also. That is also the case. Okay. Can you give information about internships? So more, if you want anything on the internships particularly, you can write to me or Mihir or basically anybody in the department. I will write my email ID here in the chat box for you. Feel free to write to us anytime about any doubts that you have regarding application and procedure. Okay. What are the pros and cons of doing PhD from India and outside India? Very good question. It all depends on what is your criteria of a PhD. What are you expecting of a PhD? And see, in India, so my personal experience why I chose doing my PhD in India was I have my family here, I have my friends here, and I was comfortable in the lab that I was working in. For me, it was a very good environment, very good fit, and the research in my research interest was basically getting matched here. So these are the few things that you have to consider yourself, that what works best for you. uh, there are challenges that in abroad, if you're doing, there is a possibility you will feel homesick, basically feeling lonely there, or you may be a person who is very extrovert and get a lot of friends and life is good, no problem. And so it also depends on funding is a little challenging, at least in US programs. Yes, you when you are getting into a PhD program, if you have gone through the procedure and if you've got a PhD program, you do get the funding also along with it. But in Europe, when you apply, you have to apply for your funding separately. So doing without funding, it's very difficult. It's financially very exhausting. uh, and the duration also matters. In Europe, it is 3 years program. There is no coursework. So if you are coming from a background where you do not have any idea about what the field is about, and no coursework gives you no learning experience. So coursework is very important in that sense. Unless you have a very strong hold on the subjects already, and all you need is directly jump into a program, then Europe is good that way, because it's a 3 year program. You are saving 2 years of your life. Uh, and one another little bit of thing is there, because you are in abroad, you need proper constant funding, so you have a little more pressure of finishing it on time. So if anything goes south, then there is a problem there, because if during the period of your PhD anything does not pan out the way you wanted it to, or get delayed, then it really puts you into a lot of pressure of finishing it sooner. Here it's a bit relaxed. It's not encouraged. You should not drag your PhD to endless years. That's not something that I am motivating here to anybody. But yes, there is a little relaxed situation here. That's the another advantage. uh, okay, I think we will take the remaining questions a little later. uh, okay, I yeah. So I will start my session now, and at the end we will again come back to your questions, okay? Because I think we will run out of time otherwise. We're just left with another 20 minutes and lot to cover. uh, So in case any of your questions remain unanswered, as we have given you the email ID, please write to us. Okay, don't hesitate in writing to us at any point. Hmm. Okay, so how to prepare for these competitive exams? Looks like a nightmare, no? Night before the exam, we are always all worried. So there are two parts to preparing for competitive exams. One is the conceptual learning. There is no way of escaping it. Okay, you have to learn all the important concepts that you need to and that helps you understand what the whole ecology and evolution, or whatever competitive exam that you are preparing, those concepts are important. uh, but yes, if there are certain concepts that are not coming to you at all, if you're not understanding at all, then rather to invest your time into the concept that you are understanding. Okay. uh, so whatever topic interests you the most, pick out the good quality books, proper books on those topics, and understand in detail. so that you feel confident about the topics that you are attempting. Okay, you can always, if it is possible for you, make a study group with which you can study the important concept, teach each other. Teaching really helps. Okay, so you can teach each other and you can discuss the question and answers of the competitive paper exam papers. So that aspect has to be covered, you cannot skip over it. Okay, but there is something called a smart approach of learning, right? So once you have gained a good understanding of these concepts, then you need to strategize how you're gonna prepare for the exam, and that strategizing part involves few things. First is to solve a couple of last year question papers, which gives you the idea of the kind of questions that they are asking topic wise. Make a strategy of how to attempt and which questions to attempt. So what I mean by this is, once you know the topics of your familiarity and your stronghold topics, you need to understand that, okay, in a paper, I don't have to attempt everything. I will attempt the questions specifically targeting on the topics that I have learned. Okay. Each try to figure out the question patterns of the competitive exam that you're appearing. So for example, I will give you the example of CSIR Life Science here. It has three sections: Section A, Section B, Section C. So now Section A is your mathematical and English logical reasoning, which is basically 20 questions. And in those 20 questions, you are supposed to attempt only 15 questions. That is the maximum cap. That does not mean that you forcefully attempt 15 questions. Okay, you attempt only for which you are 100% sure that it is the right answer. Losing marks over negative answers is the worst scenario. You do not want to do that. Okay, so then your section C basically is the gold pot basically. Why? Because each question carries 4 marks. There are 75 questions of which you only have to opt for 25 questions. That means that if you attempt correct 25 questions, you already got 100 marks, which is 120 is generally the cutoff for the JRF. So all you need now is only 20 marks. So basically gaining those 25, attempting those 25 questions correctly is very crucial. Now you will ask me, okay, 75 questions, how do I spend my time? There is only 3 hours, I have to reach 75 questions. No, and that's what I mean by saying question patterns. Because in CSIR paper, what happens is each, like around 8 to 10 questions are of same topic, and they go number wise, and those numbers do not change. What I mean by that is, if you're starting with question number 45 to question number 52 as biochemistry, then that 45 to 52 in all the papers gonna be biochemistry. So now that way you can actually pick the topics of your interest and know the range of the questions that they are lying, and directly jump in the paper to those specific areas and attempt your favorite questions where you will actually score the marks. Okay, so try to strategize, try to figure out these patterns in each competitive exam, so that you don't waste time in reading questions and attempting questions wrongly. Because what happens is your first 25 are taken. So if you have poorly attempted the first 25 and later on you got the questions which are actually of your understanding, then you lost your chance. So try to figure out from where you have to start attempting the questions in the section C. And this is specific to CSIR. Each exam has these possible question patterns. Just try to understand those. Okay, and also remember, goal is not to answer more, your goal is to answer correctly. Okay, so there are few links here which basically have a lot of study material, as in the books, that will help you gain the conceptual learning if you are focusing on ecology and evolution papers. Okay, so what happens once you clear this competitive exam? So before result comes, most of the institutes already have opened their admissions. So that means you have to individually apply to these institutes, and also choose the department there. And they generally give you only 3 options. So you choose your department wisely, and your order of choosing also matters. So suppose if you are interested in CES and you choose CES as the 3rd option, then the chances that you will be considered for CES will be less, because your first preference of the department is generally goes in the order that way. Okay, and once you have done that, during this or before that also, you can actually write to the faculties that you are interested in, as Mihir mentioned, or during your interview, during, at least in CES, during your second interview, before you enter your second interview, you are told to meet the faculties. So you get to know the faculty, so you can choose the faculty that you are interested in, and you get a call for interview. Different institutes have different number of interviews, and you can also select the department, you can select the faculty, and if everything goes well, yeah, you are in the institute and you are enrolled in a PhD program. So congratulations for that. uh, how do you prepare for interviews? Sorry, I'm going a bit fast because we are running out of time, and I also want to give you time to ask the questions. So please bear with me here. How do you prepare for interviews? So revise about your projects. So this is very important. Whatever you have done so far, they want to know how well you did that, okay, during the interview. So they're gonna ask you to start the conversation. The starting conversation will be to ask you what you did in your bachelor's, what you did in your master's. So if you say that, okay, in my bachelor's I did this, then they will ask you, okay, what project you worked on, and what did you do in this project. So whether or not you understood that project clearly. So please refresh your memory, jog your memory on the projects that you are mentioning that you have done. uh, and then also choose your favorite subjects from your bachelor's and master's, which you think are your strong points. They will ask you this properly, that what are your subjects that you are confident in, because whatever you say you are confident in, they will build the questions on those topics. Okay, but that does not mean that you can always skip everything. There are few topics that you have to understand, because some questions in some interview will definitely be based on that. And these standard topics are fundamental of statistics and probability, a basic understanding of permutation and combination, and a very basic understanding of plotting graphs. Because in a research, at the end, when you come to the towards the end and you have to present your results, this is how you're going to do. You have to do the statistics associated, you have to give proper graphs, you have to consider all the possibilities and probabilities. So you need to know those things, it's important. So don't try to skip those topics. I know a lot of you have fear of math, may have fear of math, many people have, but that is something to overcome at this point of time. Okay, there are certain fundamental questions that definitely will be asked from you, that what interests you in ecology. First of all, why you are interested in the department of ecology, why do you want to do a PhD, what do you want to do after a PhD. If given a chance to choose your topic of research, what that be, basically to understand how well have you thought of doing this PhD. Have you really considered it as a possibility, or is it just a process that you are going through, right? So that kind of a clarity, if you show during interviews, you have a very high chance of clearing it. Read about the research that has been done and going on broadly in the department that you apply. What is the bigger theme of the department? What is the bigger theme of each lab, especially the lab that you are interested in? Familiarize yourself to the faculties. And this is one book that I personally recommend because it covers the ecology and evolution in 2 chapters in great detail, sufficient enough for you to at least get the perspective of what ecology and evolution is at a very basic level, very basic level. It's not giving you anything to the detail of actually understanding ecology and evolution, but enough for you to gain a perspective. And that is Raven's Biology. You can find it online. It is also added in the list, that link that I have shared earlier. Then how do you choose your field of interest? Because that is something is required for you to decide on, right? Uh, so there are different views of different people. For some people, it matters that what concept they are interested in, whether that concept is covered. Like for example, there are people who are interested in evolutionary biology, or there are people who are interested in predator-prey interaction. The kind of questions that they are interested is coming from life history, natural life history, or conservation. So that there is a concept there, right, that interests you, that has fascinated you. So then you choose your field of interest based on those concepts. For some other people, it is model system. What I mean by model system is the kind of animal or plant that you are interested in working. Like some people find elephants very charismatic. Some people say, I want to work on ants because that fascinates me. Some people wants to work on vampire bats. So it also depends on the sub, like you are okay with any kind of question as long as it is asked in that model system of your choice, then you choose that field. Or for some people, it is the technique or approach that matters, like whether it is a wet lab kind of a work, whether it is a field work, whether it is a theoretical simulation kind of a mathematical inclined work that may interest you, what kind of techniques, like whether they are using PCR or whether they are using any molecular techniques, other molecular techniques, or computational skills, depending on what interests you. So if that is where you are interested in, then you can use that as a way to choose your field of interest. What also helps is talking to people in the field. Whatever thing is fascinating you, talk to the people in that field. Get a perspective, understand the pros and cons of joining that field. Okay. You can also gain this kind of a understanding by doing internship, volunteering, or project assistance. You gain a good amount of experience during these. You can also read a couple of research work in the field that interest you. And for your own self, always list out the pros and cons that is tailored for yourself. Like, what are the pros for you to join? For example, I generally like field ecology. Okay, I love field ecology, but I realized I'm not a very fit person, so I cannot survive in the field on my own. I'm So that was a con for me, that I knew that if I go to field, I would not do a good job. So, like that, ask for yourself what would be the pros and cons of a certain field or concept that you want to work on. Okay. Hmm. Great. How to choose a supervisor? So there is a lot of expectation from a supervisor. Make sense, some make sense, some are very unrealistic. So here is a cartoon. Is somebody unmuted? Can you please mute yourself? Yeah. Uh, so there is a cartoon here suggesting that a good supervisor can be trained to do tricks. They can actually magically present a very dull PhD student into a star show or a superstar kind of a person. Come see this amazing Herbert. He can do this and that. Okay. No, that's not the job of your supervisor, to become a good trained person to do tricks. Okay. So have some realistic expectations from your supervisors. Uh, and always remember, if you are expecting something from them, they also deserve to expect something out of you. So it's a both way journey. It's not like you are completely reliant on them or they are completely reliant on you. You get to learn from them and they get to learn from you. It's a mutual benefiting system. So let it be a mutual benefiting system. How can you choose your supervisor then? You should be fascinated in the areas of their interest. That is the first most important thing. You should not just go to a supervisor because they agreed to take you in. If you're not interested in the field of work that they do, then you are not a good fit for the lab. So please don't approach such supervisors that you're not interested in the work of. Then talk to them. Okay. Understand their lab policies to check if that matches with your personality and goals. So each lab has their own way of functioning. Each supervisor has their own way of mentoring. It may work for you, it may not work for you. For example, I am a kind of a person who needs a constant feedback from my supervisor on what I'm doing, how am I doing. So I keep checking with my supervisor, and my supervisors are of the kind of a person who agrees to give me that kind of feedback. So I rely for that. But when it comes to designing things for me, when it comes to making this small decisions related to my work, I don't want my supervisors to initially guide me on that. I want their guide a little later when I have made a few choices for myself. So I need that kind of a mentorship. So I discussed this with my supervisor beforehand. And then we came to a mutual terms which worked for them and worked for me. So that kind of a healthy discussion is required before you choose a supervisor. You can discuss your goals, your expectations on mentorship, and also ask the supervisor what they expecting from the students, what kind of a mentee they want, and what do they expect out of the project work that you are thinking of working on, right? See, they also have some goals in their career. Their career is not a dead end career, it also has scope for promoting to a higher position. So they also need some concrete work to show. So there is some understanding of that required. Okay. And then you can also talk to the lab members to understand the lab culture, because that is also very important, because that becomes your second family. So you need to understand how the lab functions, whether you are a right fit in that lab, because they will be the only people who are around you for the most amount of your time of the day. So if you don't gel well with them in your understanding, in your way of approaches, then it will be difficult, it will be very lonely, and that should not happen. Okay. So now coming specifically to the CS PhD program. CS PhD program is a 5-year direct PhD program, and if you join as an int PhD, it's almost roughly takes to 7 years. These are not hard bound years. There are people who have done their PhDs in 4 years. There are people who have finished their int PhDs in 6 years also. Okay, so it's not like 5 year means you have to invest your whole 5 year, but it also does not mean that if your work is not finished, you will be thrown out after 5 years. Okay, so your first year is a coursework where depending on what program you are coming, because for BTech candidates, the credit requirement is different than a MSc candidate. Okay. So check from what background you are coming and check the credit requirement, and accordingly, you have to do a coursework. Generally, it is desired that you finish your coursework in your first year, so that it gives you a complete 1 year to prepare for your decision on what you want to work on, decide your topic, and do a little preliminary research on that topic. Because at the end, towards the end of your second year, you have to give comprehensive exams, which is a series of exams, small exams coming together in a little span of time to each other, to examine that whatever decision you have made on the topic that you want to work, that has been rigorously thought of, so that in the next 3 years when you are working on it, you do not stumble into unresolvable problems. Okay. After you clear your comprehensive exam, there is a every year annual progress report that you have to submit to the department in CS, which basically helps you examine yourself and prepare your goals for every year properly, so that by the end of the 5th year, when you are actually ready to submit your thesis, and a good quality thesis of that. Okay. You also have thesis committee that is made after the first year of your PhD, in which you have finished your coursework generally. And this thesis committee is basically the additional mentors to you, along with your supervisor, who will help you guide, give you more perspective on the topics that you're working, and give you a constant guidance. And if in case, may not happen, but if in case it happens, if there is a dispute between you and your supervisor, this committee also help mitigate that dispute. Okay. So you have regular thesis committee meetings also. And towards between your third and fourth year, there is a thesis progress presentation that you have to do, give to the entire department, which is open to other people also, in which you basically tell how much progress you have made post your comprehensive exam, what work you have done, what are the challenges you have faced, what are the problems you are facing, so that the entire department can give you a feedback on your work and help you resolve the problems that you're facing. So it's a very good opportunity also to give a check to yourself that where you are standing and whether or not you will be able to finish your PhD in 5 years. Towards the 5th year, you are expected to give a colloquium, which is again a presentation department wide, in which you declare that your work is done, and you present your results of everything, get a feedback from everybody, so that if there is any changes or any fundamental things that are missing, you can include that and write your thesis properly. And then you submit your thesis. Your thesis goes for external review. It comes back with comments. You make changes to those based on those comments. And then again, you give a department-wide presentation, which is your thesis defense, at the end of which there will be a questionnaire viva session with your examiners. And that basically finishes your PhD, 5 years of your PhD. And what happens in this 5 years of PhD, that is the life of a PhD student, which will be covered in the next session. Here are a couple of links that may help you understand the CS PhD program much better. Okay, so with this, I will finally end and we are open for questions. I hope we have finished on time. Mihir has been answering some of the questions, I think, in the chat. I will stop sharing and maybe we can address some of your questions if we have time. I don't know where to begin with. Okay, how to approach for an internship as I am MSc first year is, you replied. Okay.
So I don't think there are questions that are remaining from the previous thing, but if you have more questions, you can definitely ask. You can either raise your hand and ask or type it in the chat box.
Abhinav, so I think these videos are recorded. So I think they are also available on YouTube and on the CS website. So you can use that in directly instead of us giving you the presentation as such. But we can discuss this first with the faculty and everybody. What is the scenario of sharing the PhD presentations? If it is okay, then we will share the PhD presentations. Okay. Sorry, PhD, not PhD presentations, but these presentations, right? Yeah, but anybody, any other question that they want to ask? Let me check if there is anything on the YouTube. No, unfortunately, it is not yet coming. The chat box is not coming. Oh, it has come. Any questions? Please share your email ID. Okay, you have replied. Were there any more?
No.
Okay. I can also give. How do I give? Okay. Here. Can I type? I can type. Say something. Hmm. Okay. There's a question on Zoom. Okay. What's the question?
I'll read it out to you.
No, I'll read it.
Okay.
Does it really matter how to apply for PhD in Europe? That is a very different topic. So you basically in Europe, how it works is you apply to the individual professor and you also apply separately for scholarships. Different scholarships open different times. So you have to keep a tab on that and then you apply. And once you have both, then yes, you are admitted. Hello. Does it really matter what fellowship exam you have cleared to get into CS? No, it does not matter. This year, a cutoff was released based on your marks in the net exam. Was it due to the whole COVID situation or it's a shift that's gonna continue now on? No, so cutoff on a net exam is always there. It's always been there. It's not specific to COVID. What is the cutoff that may change? That may vary from year to year, but there is always a cutoff. Okay. Sir, please tell us how to approach for internship. It depends on what internship you are applying for. It changes from internship to internship. If you're applying for a paid internship, that's a very different thing because there you have to tell how you deserve the position. But if you are writing for an unpaid internship, then there you have to say why you are so motivated in doing that internship that you are okay to do it without any pay. Because that's how the thought process changes, no, between the two. Because paid internship is like a job, short-term job. So it's the same. How would you approach a short-term job? You have to think in the same lines. Okay. Okay. Then please answer my question. What is your question, Purnima? Okay. Okay, I did that. Okay. Okay, can you give the link for post in what is post internship? Okay, okay. I haven't grabbed any internship till now. I'm a bit confused about my interest in research. I don't know whether I will be a fit for it or not. So, what may be the another approach to find whether I will be good at a particular field or not? Okay, so as Mihir mentioned earlier, that there is a lot of reading that you can do, and also there are a lot of volunteering you can do if it is possible for you, whether like financially or whether time wise. If it is possible for you, you can do short term volunteering. You can also apply for as a visitor, if not as a project assistants or internship. You can always write to the professors to visit the lab and meet the lab people, and spend a week or two in the lab to understand how lab functions, discuss things, and that can also help. So visit as a visitor, you are most of the professors, at least in CES, welcome students. Okay. I didn't get the answer. uh, Sir, please tell us how to approach for internship. I didn't get the answer. uh, as I said, it depends whether you are applying for a paid internship or a unpaid internship. If you are applying for a paid internship, you have to show that you have a skill set that is required for that paid internship, because in a paid internship you are expected to know a little bit about the work that is required of you to be done. In an unpaid internship, you have to mention very clearly that why you are interested in doing the kind of a work that is done in the lab and the kind of a project that is requiring internship. Okay. uh, Sorry, paid internship. So okay. CV during our MS itself. Sir, for getting PhD in any premier student, whether the score from the national exam will be enough, or else we must do something to strengthen our CV during our MSc itself. Yes, you can do a lot to strengthen your MSc CV, and that is like internship, research experience, volunteering experiences, co-curricular activities, showing interest in the field, some reading that you can do, uh, and you can also talk to the people in the field, understand what is there, have a clear understanding of concepts, as well as the kind of a work that you want to do. You can also do small courseworks on certain special topics and strengthen your statistics, probability, and these topics, as I mentioned. uh,
So these entrance exams mostly are useful only to get you to the interviews. I mean, these only act as the first filter for your selection for the interviews. But in the interviews, your experience and your grasp of the concepts will make sure whether you'll qualify or not.
hmm. Darshna, right now, on top of our mind, we do not have any specific NGO's name which are focusing on environmental sciences internship. But there are a lot of NGOs that work in general, like you have NCF, that is Nature Conservation Foundation, you have WCS, Wildlife Conservation Sciences, and CWS, and you have there is some other support groups also for human animal conflicts, but all of them are very open, and you can get more details about these NGOs on the website yeti.net, right? Yeti.net, you can get information about there. Mailing list, yes, Mihir has already mentioned that, right? Sir, for getting any, that I have covered. Somebody wrote, I'm a bit confused about my interest. Have I covered that? Okay. Okay, fine. Then everything else is answered, I believe. Any other question from anybody else? I think we will take a break now before the next session, that is life as a PhD student, starts. Uh, Thank you all for listening us and for wonderful questions. I think our presentation did not cover more than what your questions actually ensured that it is covered. So thanks a lot for your time. I hope you like the session. Uh, And thanks for Mihir for being such a good co-host here. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey, Nitin,
Yeah,
there's a question.
yeah. Where?
Last question. Just take this
Can
one.
we get into PhD in ISC Bangalore through JG? Please answer this question. I don't think so. No. For your INT PhD, you have only single exam, that is the JAM exam. You cannot go through this exam into INT PhD. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed
yes.
Shubhankar's question. Shubhankar, where is your question? Sorry, it is a little difficult scrolling here. Is there a financial upper cap for instruments and chemicals? See, okay, so that depends on the funding that you have. That creates a upper cap on the instruments and the chemical, because some funding is a lab funding, some funding is a department funding, which by default is there, for which you do not have to worry about. But if your project requires special chemicals, if your PhD topic is such that it requires a special instrument or special chemicals, you would have to write a proper grant for it, and you have to budget for it. And as I said, that makes you a good manager and a good financial admin, because you have to see that how much grant money is coming to you, how will you justify the use, and what that grant can provide you by purchasing. So those all kind of decisions are to be made by you during your PhD when you are writing the grants for these instruments and chemicals. So obviously you are not expected to buy very big instruments and all. Those things are generally part of the facilities of the department. Like our department has already environmental chemistry lab, there is a molecular biology lab, and there is a Lotka Volterra lab, which is basically a computer lab. So we have these kind of facilities already, and individual labs also have a lot of equipments in them based on the kind of work they do. So that also comes in the question when you're choosing the lab, right? That you think that, okay, if I want to do this kind of a work, whether the lab has that kind of an infrastructure. So if it is a very small setup that you need, that you can do through the grant writing. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Nitin, I think we can end.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, we will end. Yes, it is already 15:35. Having biotechnology paper in IIT JAM, so we can get into PhD. Okay. Okay, Abhinav, why don't you write to me? Okay, write to me and we can discuss this. Bye.
Thanks, Nitin and Mahir. Thank you so much for doing this session so well. So we will now begin the next session by Pranoy, Kanika, and Kajal and Avik. Okay, all of them are PhD student series. Okay, over to you folks. Thank you. Arun, we need to make some of these people co-hosts to make sure they have the privileges for sharing any slides and all. Arun?
Yeah, yes, sure. I have already made.
Okay. 4 people. Huh?
I think, yeah, only Pranav is missing.
Huh. Pranav is not, I don't know if Pranav is in this session.
I am here. I will.
Pranoy, not Pranav. Pranoy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys can start now. Okay, thank you. Bye. I will be around.
Hello, please confirm that you can hear me and see me.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Thanks a lot, Vishu. Hi, everybody. I'm Kajal, first year PhD student in Dr. Karthik Shankar's lab. Actually, I just joined PhD, so I do not have a lot to talk about of the life as a PhD. In fact, I'm just getting used to being called a PhD student in that sense. So the transition from bachelor's, master's, and to PhD is quite a fresh. So yeah, I would like to talk about that. I think our batch was a little different in a way that things started online. So our experience, I think, was also a little different. But one of the things that is common to all the PhD who start out is like how they actually get into the PhD program. and like you take a lot of exams, you go to interviews, get rejected, go to other interviews, and finally make it to the PhD program. And in fact, getting into research and to a PhD program in ecology and evolution in itself is very interesting, because most of us do not take a straight path, as in, after school, we do not decide that we have to work in ecology and evolution. Most of us navigate our way to come here or anywhere where they can pursue the questions on ecology or evolution or behavior like that. So, like Nitin and Mihir also talked about their way that they took different paths, random walks, and they came to the program here. I also started out same way. For example, my bachelor's was in biomedical sciences, and in my 3-year program, we barely had 3 or 4 classes that were dedicated to ecology, and then evolution included. But fortunately, my interactions with people in zoology department, and we had a common science society, so we would discuss a lot of questions, and questions that were related to behavior and even distribution of animal that really piqued my interest. So thereafter, I thought that these are also very cool questions and would be really nice to take up for research. So anyway, after bachelor's, I thought that I will try to do research, but I was not very sure. So I tried out a lot of things, including things that were not related to science, but I kept writing to various professors in different institutions to get an opportunity of having a real sense of how things work here in ecology. And luckily, after a lot of trials, I got opportunity in an evolutionary ecology lab in ISER Trivandrum. That internship was very helpful in a way that it was an eye-opener, because I realized that working in ecology is not for avoiding labs or running behind butterflies or snakes for that matter. It's a lot of seeing computer screen and also learning a lot of statistics. So that prepared me for what to expect if I seriously pursued this for research or join a PhD program. During that time, I was also applying for integrated PhD programs, and I had given exams, cleared them, went to interviews, but could not make it to the final list, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever. So I joined a master's program in ecology in Pondicherry University. One of the good thing is when you come in the community where people are actually working in the field as in ecology, evolution, or whatever interests you, is that they can also guide you to people or to places which align with your interests. So, it's easier to navigate your way that way. Also, you have to at least I had to try out different things to actually know what my interests are. Like in my master's program, I had kind of a personal rule that I will attend at least 1 or 2 workshops outside the university to know what other people are doing and be in touch with them to know what I can do after my master's. In fact, during one of these conferences I attended, I met the supervisor whom I approached for my master's dissertation, and that way things worked out really well, I guess. Yeah. So after my dissertation, I continued that process. In fact, this is along with the dissertation process that you take exams and you again go to interview and then again get rejected. And somehow, if you're being lucky, you make it to an institution. And I was also, I think, incredibly lucky to get into ISC. Well, coming to ISC, when I joined, as I already mentioned, things were remote. So I think it was different for what is usually for other PhDs or will be for you if you guys join a PhD program. But I am guessing that, the feelings of self-doubt or thinking that, oh my God, my peers are so much smarter than me. How did I even come here? Is common to everybody. But then at the same time, it's also very inspiring because, they are so good that they increase or enhances your pace of learning. So you learn things very fast. In fact, your seniors are also there to guide you. Uh, and one of the thing about PhDs in India or any 5-year program is that first year is usually dedicated to coursework. So it's not a shock to transition from master to PhD. You get your time, like it's a smooth transition. You juggle between lab meets or your coursework, but then eventually it's a good way to figure out things. And if you're a normal batch, I guess you also get to work in lab and field, so you get an idea of probably what interests you and you want to pursue seriously for another 4 years. Yeah. uh, I do want to mention one more thing before finishing is that one thing that came to me as a surprise and is wonderful to know is that here you have a dual support system. I mean, you definitely have your peers and your seniors who guide you in things and how to navigate your first year, obviously. And they're also incredibly smart. So, you learn from them and you even learn from undergrads, which is sometimes not good, but yeah, so in addition to that, you also have your supervisors and your other faculty members who, in a way, actually take care of you, like they support you when you're struggling and keep encouraging you to try out things. And I'm not sure how much one can appreciate it until they actually experience it, but it is very, very helpful, at least in the first year. So yeah, that's how things have been for me in past 5 months, I guess. And I'm expecting that things will get busier and probably more strenuous and more exciting. But about that, a better perspective can be given by a week, Pranoy and Kanika. So I will stop now and hand it over to Kanika. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi all. Thank you, Kajal. I hope you all can hear me and see me.
Yeah, we can.
Just a second. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks a lot, Kajal. That was like a beautiful explanation to your transition from bachelor's to your first year of PhD and what all you feel, what all you try, and to get admission into PhD of the field of your interest. So from here, I want to move on and talk about, I'll move on and then talk about the transition which you experience when you move from your master's or bachelor's to your PhD or whatever course you did in the past to PhD, based on my past experience or the experience of my initial years of my PhD. So for that, I have made a small presentation. I'll share my screen with you. Yeah. Is the screen visible? Can you see the slide?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Avik, you're not, I don't know if it's your phone, but you're not very audible.
Am I now, right now?
You can increase your volume a little bit. Cool, you can do that later. I'll start. So yeah, this is me in my bachelor's doing zoology honors. I was pretty confused. I knew I liked biology and I hated botany, so I took zoology, but I really didn't know what I will be doing after my bachelor's. And I definitely didn't think of PhD because I didn't know how a PhD, how a PhD life is or what the future options or the career options are after PhD. So here to point out, it is much appreciated, the effort put by a department to get you all a feel for it. But as you, just a second, it's stuck. I'm so sorry. Oh God. Yeah. So as I proceeded with my bachelor's, I got a bit comfortable with the kind of subjects I was studying, and I realized that I kind of liked evolutionary biology, genetics, and molecular biology because I really liked, when the brainstorming which used to go during the discussion in the classroom of evolutionary biology, and also the fancy techniques which you do in molecular biology. So by the end of bachelor's, I decided that I'd be doing my master's in biotechnology. So everything felt quite set for me, and I was sorted for the next 2 years. But that kind of finished quite soon. And then I realized that I was part of the race. I was appearing for exams, I was writing exams, I was appearing for interviews. And in that moment, when I was running that race, I realized that I want to do my research in evolutionary biology because of my dissertation experience, I knew that I liked research. And also, we had the subject of evolutionary biology in biotechnology, which was much debated by our department. According to many people, it was not supposed to be a part of a curriculum. But I was fortunate enough to get a chance to study the course again. And that kind of rekindled my old love. And I realized that, I want to do my research in evolutionary biology. So I applied to different departments and I got PhD admission in CS. And this was the feeling I felt at, the cloud nine. And then this leads me to a tweet, or rather a meme, which I read long back. It said that the best time of your PhD is those 3 months when you get selected, but you have not really started your PhD. So in those 3 months, those are the best 3 months because you get to tell everybody that you're selected for PhD, but you're really not doing anything. So that's what it said. It said that, those are the best 3 months of your PhD, and it can't be more accurate because when you join the institute, you realize that it's a lot to take in. Even though you imagined or you try to, understand what all it can be, the experience or doing a PhD, you realize it only when you join it and when you start the curriculum or when you start your life as a PhD student. So this is the aim of my presentation. I want to share my experience of this transition from my master's course to the early years of my PhD life. And this is how I'm going to explain it to you. So I'm going to compare master's versus PhD. So master's is like, I'm using MSc for the sake of simplicity, but it can be any course, whatever course you did before joining for your PhD. So there are few obvious differences and few not so obvious differences. So let's just talk about the obvious differences. And here I want all of you to tell me what are the obvious differences between the courses you took before PhD based on whatever you have heard. Sorry. Okay. I want you all to give me, to tell me what are the obvious differences between PhD and the course you took before it. And I'm not sure if I can see the answers. Yeah. Hello?
So I will say what is coming in the chat box for you, Kanika.
Yes, thank you.
Anand Kumar says in MSc you know things. In PhD you realize you know nothing.
I think that's like a not so obvious difference.
Okay. Abhinav says MSc is not that much research oriented as PhD is.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Anand Kumar, you already have good realizations. Okay. Any more?
Am I audible?
Hello?
Yeah, am I audible? This is Avik.
Yeah, Avik.
Yeah.
Your voice is pretty faint, but I can still hear you.
Okay. No, just checking.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I have actually written down a few obvious differences.
Okay.
Any more?
There is another one more. Again by Abhinav. MSc is of 2 years. PhD you don't know.
Yeah. If you're lucky, then 4 or 5 years. Okay, so I think I'll just. Any more answers? Okay,
no.
I think I'll. Okay, fine. I'll move on to the differences, which Okay, fine. It's stuck again. Yeah. So here are a few obvious differences. The duration, as mentioned before, it's 2 years versus 5 years, or you don't know. And then there's fellowship. Most of the MSc programs, they do not pay you, but PhD does. You get stipend. And then the learning experience. So as mentioned before, PhD is more research oriented and master's is more academically, I mean, you are more academically inclined. You learn all the subjects and you appear for exams. And then towards the end of master's, you do dissertation where you get a hint of, research. So that way it is different. Also in PhD, you are doing research and you get a chance to do TAship, like where you teach. So that is like another different learning experience from master. Field of study, master's is already, you specialize when you're doing your master's course. But in PhD, that narrows down even further, your question, you narrow down to your research questions. That way it is even more specialized. But at the same time, I would like to point out, if you're joining an institute with different courses, you can always sit through different classes and attend different subjects. So that way you get more exposure and get to learn a lot more than just the field of your study. Curriculum, like you all know, in masters, it's of 2 years. There's a fixed curriculum. It's properly designed with like precision, with all the subjects decided for every semester. And then there's exam, this kind of presentation, dissertation, everything is fixed. PhD also has a decided curriculum, but it's not as fixed and not as detailed. There's always a room for you to make changes or do it at your own pace. So that way it's a bit flexible. Then batch. In masters, you might be having a big batch with multiple classmates and you're attending classes for 8 hours, 5 or 6 days a week. That might or might not be, that's actually not a case in PhD. If you're lucky, then you have a good big batch. If you're not, then you might have just 2, 3 or maybe 4 students in your batch in the same department doing PhD. Last is exams. Masters, you always have exams towards the end of the semester. You study a subject, you appear for exam, you got your grades, and you're done with it. Then you move on, and then you study another course, another subject. And this reminds me that when I was writing the last year exam of my master's, I was telling myself that this is the last exam of my life which I'm writing, which is not true if you're joining your PhD, because as mentioned by Kajal, there's a coursework in the first year of your PhD also, and you sit through classes and you write your exams. Most of the courses, you write your exams. Sometimes you are given assignments and all of that. And then comes the biggest exam, which is your comprehensive exam, which is at the end of the second year of your PhD. So these courses which you take in the first year, they kind of direct you or kind of help you in coming up with questions and designing your study. And that helps you appearing for your comprehensive exam. And in comprehensive exam, you just put forward your ideas and your design your approach, and you have to defend yourself, as in you're supposed to prove it to the committee that you are capable of conducting this study and that this study is feasible. So yeah, that's like nice exam it is. Okay. Fine. Then moving on to not so obvious differences. So these not so obvious differences are actually the challenges. So when people say that, PhD stuff, it's different. So these are actually the differences which hit you in the face when you join PhD, and these are the realizations. And I'm calling these realizations from my experience because I have not really learned. These are not learnings for me till now because I've not learned. I'm still in the process of learning, understanding and assimilating it. So these I would put across as the realizations, and let's just move forward with a few which based on my experience. So first thing which you realize when you join PhD, and like after a few months, when you and more actually after your coursework is finished, that it's self-driven. So in your masters, you have a proper curriculum like we discussed, and you there you have daily deadlines, weekly deadlines, semester, annual deadlines, and there's always someone forcing these deadlines on you, you know, your teachers, your peers, or the grading system. This is, I mean, PhD course also has a deadline, which is finish your PhD in 5 years. That's like the deadline for your PhD. And because of that, how do you approach it? How do you, you know, have this journey till the finish? That gets really, you have to figure it out on your own, and it gets a bit intimidating. It gets a bit, you know, you might feel lost. But we do have committees set up for these. The committees like DCC, they guide you, they give you goals semester wise for you to achieve those goals so that you're on track, you're not losing the track. But at the same time, reaching even those semester goals is up to you, how you achieve them, you know, how you set your weekly, daily goals to achieve those goals, like the semester goals. So that way, it can be a bit overwhelming. Second is no standard. And by standard, I don't mean quality. I meant there's no norm and there's no reference to compare with. So in your master's or in your bachelor's or whatever course you're doing, you all experience similar academic environment. You all sit through those classes for 8 hours. So there's a grading system, or sometimes worse, relative grading system. So you all are compared, and you know, then you get positions like gold medal, silver medal, or whatever. So it is justified because despite your personal differences in your interest and aptitude or whatever, you are given a similar environment, academic environment, and therefore they can say that that's why we are comparing you, okay, because that is controlled. So okay, let's just give it to them, that's fair enough. But the issue occurs when we take this you know, knowingly or unknowingly to our PhD, because there also we sometimes try to compare our journeys with our batchmates or maybe senior or junior, and that time it's important to realize that here even the academic environment is not similar. So we really are not controlling for anything to compare across the PhD students, and you know, and therefore it does not make sense to compare different PhDs because, for example, people have their different model systems, and you know, somebody is going to field, somebody is working in the lab, somebody is working on the computer, different advisors, different lab environments. So everything is so different for every individual PhD student that you really cannot compare the journey or you know, that your life as a PhD student. Then third one is multitask. And by multitask, I do not mean doing 5 different things simultaneously. By multitask, I mean that you get to do more things just, you know, other than your experiments. For example, in your master's, you were going to your lab, doing experiments, coming back. You really didn't care about, you know, cleaning or buying chemicals or repairing the equipment. But here, from the very basic cleaning your workplace to buying chemicals to repairing it, getting your equipments repaired, to writing grants for getting money for your research, you know, sometimes getting interns and project assistants, and there's a role reversal. Till now you were project assistant and intern, and now you are supervising those people. So all that, and then at the same time participating in co-curricular activities, you know, like for example, this workshop, volunteering for workshop, or organizing events like in-house symposium. So all these tasks can take a good proportion of your PhD, you know, life, and that sometimes can be, I mean, initially it can be difficult to manage, but this you learn over a course of time. Last is social circle. This is something we don't realize very early because in our masters or bachelors, we always have batch of students and we all sit through classes, we all experience same sufferings, and you know, we hate the same teacher in solidarity. So we all bond over these things with each other. But in PhD, so first of all, you're lucky if you have a good batch, like a big batch of PhD students. If you don't, then you have to, you know, the social circle includes your seniors, juniors, and other people also. And even though if you have like good number of people to interact with, they all have their different, like how I mentioned, they all have different working environment. So a lot of time that does not overlap. So interaction, communication, networking also becomes sometimes, you know, you have to put more effort to reach out to people and to form those connections and to maintain those connections. So yeah, these are the challenges. But I don't want to leave you high and dry. I want to show you the bright side of these challenges. So uh, self-driven gives you a sense of independence. So if you're self-driven, you're doing, it's you're telling yourself, that's my project, it's my idea, these are my questions, this is how I'm going to approach it. I mean, of course, you're getting advice from your supervisor, but and supervisor, and help from the scientific community, your peers. But in the end, it's your project. You are leading the big project. So once you accomplish it, the sense of achievement is, I believe, is very different from anything. So that sense of independence, I think, is great. Then that no comparison. So once you accept that you can not really compare different people, their different journeys, once you accept it, you allow yourself to design your own work schedule, that, oh, maybe these, maybe morning is better for me to work, afternoon, or maybe night, or, maybe I can take long break at once, or maybe I can take short break in between. Maybe I can do these many tasks in one day, or maybe I can distribute. So all of that you can design for yourself. You don't need to, follow a norm. So I think that way it's great, because this work schedule keeps evolving, and that kind of gives you a sense of self-awareness. Uh, and in the end, multitask and social circles. So when you try to interact with more people and you do different tasks like organizing, volunteering, you're interacting with so many people. So that kind of makes you learn different skills, other skills like networking and coordinating and interacting with people, getting work done, doing something which is not just your experiment. So I think, and especially time management. So all that is, I think, really important. All this is like byproduct of, you didn't even think that you would be doing all this, but you are doing this and you are actually learning a lot from this. So yeah, I think that's just that's the bright side of it. And in the end, like I said, you are self-aware. You just know that this suits me, this does not suit me, and you can just work as per your own needs and requirements. So yeah, I hope I like motivated you to join PhD and not scared you. Cool, thank you. I can take questions, or maybe in the end, how are we doing it? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Kanika. So yeah.
Yeah, right. So if there are no questions for Kanika, then I will kind of take over from here for the next maybe 20 minutes. Am I audible to everyone?
You are.
Yeah, thank you so much. Right. So I think Kajal and Kanika have already given a very lovely overview of what it is to be a PhD student at CES, the entire transition from being a bachelor student, a master student, and then entering a PhD program. So I'm going to kind of summarize both of their experiences, considering I'm in my final year and close to submitting my thesis. So I kind of can summarize everything and share my experiences of what it is to be a PhD student in CES, especially from the ecosystems lab. And I would like to kind of show a disclaimer here that these are going to be my own experiences, because I have had just one lifetime, and all of that has the past 5 years of that one lifetime has been spent in one lab of the Center for Ecological Sciences, that is the ecosystems lab. So hence my sample size of my experiences is one. So the experiences, as Kanika said, may vary and may not be exactly the same for everyone. Right. So with that, I'm going to take every one of you on a journey. Right. The journey kind of starts when, you take any of these multiple examinations that you have. I think Nitin, and Kajal, Kanika have already kind of spoken about all of this. So, your journey kind of starts in that room, in that examination hall where you take on any one of these exams for a PhD program, and there are several others as well. And then very interesting, there are several videos on YouTube on how do you, deal with interview experiences in the department. So for me, it was kind of overwhelming when I came for the interviews, because I got to meet the best ecologists in the world. It was very daunting for me, because I was enamored, and there were these are the big names of ecology in the country. We have read papers about them, about their work. We have seen newspaper articles about them, about their achievements, and you kind of look up to these people, and suddenly one day you are in a room with 3 to 8 of these top ecologists in the country and the world, and they ask you all these questions about behavior. The questions vary from complex behavior, designing an experiment on behavior studies, species area curve, simple to complex mathematical equations. And you don't know what to say, because at one side you are enamored by the fact that you are in front of the best in the country and you can't speak nonsense and get away with that, but also the fact that this is the one opportunity where you can actually hit the nail on its head and give the right answers and tell the best people in the country that you are eligible to become an apprentice of theirs. And after all of this, you kind of realize that a PhD is not what is shown in planet Earth, and it's not very fancy, or everything about it is not as fancy as you would have thought, as you would see in any of these very popular documentaries. And life is not just about going out in the wild and having fun. That's you start realizing this when you give your interviews for the first time. And considering, as Kajal said that you are lucky and you join the course, and even Kanika opined with that. You come to the first year in CES, and then the director of the Indian Institute of Science will make you sit in this lovely auditorium, the JN Tata auditorium, and will tell you, congratulations, you have joined the best institute in this country and one of the best in the world, and you are good. And this kind of pushes you into a corner to think, as Kanika rightly said, am I really that good? Galti se to yahan nahi pahunch gaya. These kinds of questions start coming, and you with that kind of a mindset enter the department, and in the first year you kind of realize that your master's exam was not your last examination. You have to take a hell lot of courses again. ISC requires 12 minimum research training programs, or RTPs, that you have to take, and the Center for Ecological Sciences has a minimum requirement of 15 courses. So you sit through several of these courses. Many of them are taught by the best in their field, in their country, in the world. So you kind of change your track from what it was in your masters, come to a very different track, adapt to this new system of very open based learning, where the onus is on you to learn, the onus is on you to explore and understand the subject, rather than you being given Xerox notes, and then by heart everything, and you vomit all of that in the paper. It doesn't work like that in the CES or the entire institute in general. So that is kind of the setup that you enter in the first year. Overall, in the first year of your PhD, it's kind of relatively relaxed, where you're kind of exploring the campus. You also realize that the ISC mess is probably not as good as you thought, but it is definitely better than most of the other institutes in the country. And then you are enamored by the amazing landscape and the visuals that the institute has to offer, and you kind of start associating yourself more closely with the department or with the institution, and you start falling in line with the system, and you start taking pride and start developing the sense of joy that you are part of something so big which has such a rich history. And by the time you are enjoying all of that, you suddenly realize that you are in the second year of your PhD, and then you have reached the dreaded checkpoint of what is called a comprehensive examination. The comprehensive examination can be fun as well as daunting at the same point of time, because it's kind of a make and break situation for you. Now you work with your advisor, your lab mates, your peers, and you have a process where all these RTPs that you have taken, after completing the required credit requirements, you come back and you take a written exam. And who told you that your master's exam was the last? And here comes another written exam that you would probably never have thought about. And after that comes the even more very interesting and challenging, task of doing an open presentation to not just CES, but anyone in the institute who wants to come and listen to you. And this is the point of time when, either your proposed PhD questions, thesis questions are either, appreciated or they're trashed. Now, when you're appreciated, obviously it's a smooth sailing, but then if it is trashed, you need to kind of take all of that in the positive spirit, and then need to understand that all this comments that you get, the tough questions that you get, are actually going to help you to make your research question and your thesis much stronger. And after that, you have the closed viva, where you sit and face four people from an internal committee who is going to assess whether you are good enough to be promoted to a full PhD candidate student. And that's also a make and break, because this is the last checkpoint in your life where you are going to be assessed for the fact that you will be converted from a junior research fellow to a senior research fellow. So that is kind of one of those last checkpoints, last dreaded checkpoints in your life, where you're going to be assessed with such a high level of scrutiny. And then starts your third and fourth year of your PhD. And as in the photograph, it's as enjoyable and as hard as climbing a mountain. And a PhD is not just about all that you would have dreamt about, because to do a very good PhD, you need to be a good manager. By a good manager, you need to be extremely good at logistics. For example, we in our lab had to make sure that we transport 300 kgs worth of equipment through 3,800 kilometers of distance. You need to be a very good planner. You need to know about GST. You need to know what the GST number of your institute is, so that every time you purchase something, you know that you get a GST compensation. So you need to know those codes of the GST by heart. You need to be a very good financial planner. You need to know how you handle money. For example, you write a grant, or your advisor gives you money out of a grant, and suddenly you have 2-3 lakhs in your account that you have to manage very precisely, have an account of every paisa that has come, because let's admit it, every money that we get from any grant is actually the hard working money which has been given by the taxpayers of this country. Sorry, there was an echo. Okay, I'll continue. So you need to be a very good planner. You need to be a very good I guess there was an echo, and I think it's fine now, so I'll continue. So yeah, so you need to be a good planner. And then the planning just doesn't end there. You have to be a very good liaisonner. For example, you need to be very good at liaising with the forest department, considering you do a field-based work. So you have to know who the PCCF is. You need to know the entire hierarchical ranking system of the forest department or the state biodiversity boards to work there. So you need to liaison well with them. You need to be able to call email the deputy conservator of forest, or you need to know the PCCF well. You need to tell them ki please arrange my permits. You need to follow up with them, and that can be a really daunting task in our country. And then it's not just about that. You need to be several other things in your PhD other than being a student. You need to be a good welder. You need to be a good carpenter. You need to be very good at washing your clothes. You have to be extremely good at riding a vehicle, because not always you have good 4-lane roads to read where you want to do your research. You have to be in top physical fitness. You have to be a very good trekker. You need to be able to scale the loftiest mountains and the densest of the forests. And guess what? You also need to be a good mechanic, because you are stuck in the middle of nowhere and suddenly your vehicle breaks down. You need to be able to teach yourself how to fix a vehicle to make your life much easier. And then there is always this thing about necessity is the mother of innovation, and that is kind of at the base of a PhD program. For example, we went to the field in the middle of almost nowhere in this world, and suddenly a machine which is worth 15 lakhs stopped working. It gave up on us. Did that mean that we abandon our research and we just leave everything and come back? No, we innovate. So we taught ourselves how to remove the sensor out of that, and use big PVC sanitary pipes, and then figure out how to replicate the same thing that a 15 lakh machine would do. And we ended up making a machine just through our own intuitive innovation, for just 20,000 in the middle of nowhere. So a PhD is not just about being a regular normal student, but it's also about your ability to innovate and to find solutions to the tough problems that your PhD thesis would throw on your face. So as the saying goes, when life gives you lemons, make a lemonade. This is as simple as that. And then comes the very important factor that a PhD in ecology is not a one-man job. You need to integrate with the society in which you do your PhD research or your field work, because the local people there become the pillars of your life that you spend there while you're doing your field research. So it is extremely important that you integrate with their society. So what do you need to kind of integrate with their society? Be a cook and feed 13,000 people, be a good farmer and go help them out, doing farming, be a very big part of their cultural practices, traditions, and in some rare cases also do babysitting. So all of this can be extremely daunting, and just like the border road organizations, when the tough roads in the world remind you of smooth roads made by hard work of the organization's men, your PhD is something like that. When you're going gets tough, only the tough get going. So all of this can be extremely daunting, but the bottom line is, if you love what you do and you enjoy what you do, you can never stop feeling blessed in your life. For example, just look at this. You are treated to some amazing landscapes, some amazing sceneries in your life that you might have never seen before. You will see some amazing landscapes in some very beautiful settings. You end up seeing animals that are usually thought as like very cryptic, or people pay lakhs of rupees to come and see them. But when you spend your time in such amazing landscapes, you are very lucky to see some of the most elusive animals in the world. And look at how you get to see them, two of them together. You get to see some amazing flora as well, and also experience some of the most once in a lifetime events. For example, when we were in our field work, we had the opportunity to go to almost the roof of the world, or maybe the sunshade of the world. We climbed 6,000 meters to this peak called Kanamo. So this is something that you do probably only once in lifetime. And these are the opportunities that you get as a PhD student, provided you don't stop feeling daunted about it and keep moving always. And while doing all of these, what seems to be very happy, very happening situations in your life, never forget that you still have to keep continuing working on your research question. And sometimes all of it can be an extremely daunting task. For example, where we did our work, there was no electricity. We used to get electricity only an hour or 2 hours a day, and we had to work in tough conditions, use a spotlight to do what we do, again innovate. For example, we realized that what we studied in our school or college, the PV is equal to nRT, does not hold true everywhere. For example, we were doing an experiment where we were trying to absorb carbon dioxide into a certain chemical called cresol red, and we realized that it just does not absorb into it. We maybe thought that since it's very cold, the temperature is low, maybe if we increase the temperature, the experiment will work. So we kind of again brought all the scrap materials from a village with only 25 houses and built a hot air oven for ourselves. So we, after making a hot air oven for ourselves, we still realized that the experiment doesn't work. And that is when we realized that the equation that we learned in 10th standard, PV is equal to nRT, T is not the temperature is not the only thing that is of issue, but it's also the pressure that is of issue. And at an elevation of 5,000 meters above sea level, you realize that the pressure is only 586. So then we realize that probably the experiment is not going to run in the field. So everyday troubleshooting needs to be done as you are trying to integrate with your society, as you're trying to find your path of or your line in your research career as well. And after all of this, you kind of come back to the department and tell to the world what you did for the last 2 or 3 years, which is going to form the basis of your thesis progress. And when you do your thesis progress, you don't talk about being a good cook or a trekker or a rider or a mechanic, but then you actually tell the world the science that you have done, the research that you have done, and justify that every paisa of the taxpayer that you have spent has been worth it. And then comes this finals slog overs of your PhD, where you deal with a huge data set. You went to the field, you collected a lot of data, you are dealing with a huge data set, 5,000 6,000 rows. There's a learning curve of teaching yourself how to handle this data set. You then realize that maybe you didn't like mathematics or computer coding in your school, and hence you may have opted for biology. But then you realize that without mathematics, without computer coding, there is no ecology. So you have to kind of scale this learning curve of R coding, of Python coding, of GIS grass Python, and if you do image processing, even things like GIMP and Inkscape. And at the end of the day, you have to translate all that raw information into meaningful representation of your data, which can be interpreted in a scientific manner, so that you can fit a brick in the big wall of scientific understanding that gets filled every day through research questions being answered through publications. And this is a time when you realize that you're spending the maximum time with your PhD advisor. Sometimes it's very smooth sailing, and there are times when you may not agree at all with your advisor. Now there may be friction, there may be smooth sailing, but always remember, I'm telling this out of my experience, that always remember that your advisor has the best interest of you in his or her mind, and your advisor is not your enemy at any point. For example, I've heard from a lot of students who say that a relationship between a PhD advisor and a student is like a good marriage. If things don't work out, you go for a divorce. But I beg to differ, because a PhD is all about trying to understand each other, trying to understand your advisor, your advisor trying to understand them, and it's all about understanding each other, and you as a student understanding the fact that your advisor has your best interests in his or her mind, because you failing is actually going to pull them down as well. So you need to work with them, you need to learn with them. And often it so happens, even my advisor says that he learns a lot from us, I mean students. So it's a give and take policy that you have with your advisor or yours, and between the advisor and the student. So it is very important to remember that you have a very good relationship with not just your advisor but your entire lab. And remember the fact that this is the last opportunity in your life to undertake an apprenticeship. So learn without having any bias in your mind. And then at the end of all this, push and pull, tug of war, you may end up publishing papers, and you will end up publishing papers, and you put that brick in the wall of science. And as you do that, in IISc, there is a provision, which is an amazing provision, where you are given the opportunity to go to several international and national conferences. You go to these conferences, you show the world the kind of work that we have done in our campus, in our department, and show to the world about the kind of tough research or the daunting research that you have done in your study landscape. And after all of this, you come to a position where you give your thesis colloquium, where you kind of summarize all your theses and present to the entire world about what you did in your thesis. You receive a lot of questions, based on those inputs you try and improve your thesis. And at the end of the day, you end up submitting a thesis. And at the last, as the last checkpoint, you give the thesis defense. But what is very important of all of this is that, right, the bottom line of all of what I have said is that everyone in their life has several positives or negatives. But then the important thing is never to give up because of those negatives. Don't see it as a downside of your life, and never abandon the challenge that you have taken up. Because at the bottom line, if you enjoy your work, you love your science, there is nothing that can stop you from achieving what you want. And as a very personal note, I would like to say that when you join as a PhD student, treat your lab as your home and family, because it's not just for 5 years that you are here, but it's for your entire lifetime, because that is the legacy that you will carry forward. My advisor learned something from his advisor learned something from his advisor. So that is a very rich heritage and pedigree that you kind of inherit. And you will always walk in your scientific career, or even as a matter of fact your personal lives, along with your advisor, your peers, your juniors, and they will always walk with you for your entire lifetime. So always the take home message from me, from my 5 years of experience in CES in my lab, is that a PhD can be challenging, it can be amazing, but what's important is love your work and love your science, and there is nothing that can keep you behind. Yeah, with that, I guess I am done with my short talk. If there are any questions, I'm going to take those up. Else, we can kind of start continue from here, and he's going to introduce everyone about what the life of a PhD student is in the campus of ISC. So Nitin, if you could tell me if there are any questions, I would take them over.
Yeah. Hello, Pranoy.
Yes, Avik. Maybe you can continue, and then all the questions can be taken at the end.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Yeah. I think it's visible, and I'm audible.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, as you have heard Pranay talking about all the research and the field work that you have to do as a PhD student, which includes lab work, a lot of writing, a lot of statistics, going in the field. And what he actually meant and what you should take away is that you have to be innovative at times. You have to adapt to situations, come out with solutions to problems that may not directly relate to your research, right? So, but that does not complete the life of a PhD student as such. So, when we talk about the department, as you can see in the picture, a student engaging in the field, it does not give you a complete picture of what a PhD is all about. It's not just about engaging in the field per se. You also have to engage in the department and in the institute. So when we talk about the department, the first thing that comes to my mind is this Ecology Student Society, or the ESS. Now, this ESS, you can see, as the name sounds, it's a student society. You can say it's like the backbone of all CES activities, CES events. It's a student body that organizes talks, seminars, workshops, events, all different type of events that happen at CES and can be uh, regulated by the student body. And anything like circulating the emails about the event, setting up the venues, setting up the talk sessions, even setting up other events like quizzes or even nature walks. All these things come under the, like, all these things can be taken up by this Ecology Student Society, or ESS as we call it. Now, one more important event of this department is the CES in-house symposium. Now, as the name you can see, it's in-house symposium, means it's an annual symposium that's only for the department members. I mean, the students, the faculty, and also the staff that work in CES, only for the CES members. And this is a platform that gives the student and the faculty alike to get together and exchange their research ideas. Okay, so it's like presenting your for students, it's like presenting your uh, ideas that are like your preliminary ideas, or you can present about your completed research, published research, and get to know get to suggestions from other faculty, from other members of CES, because they know about your field better than other people in the institute. Now, this platform is also for organizing different panel discussions, and these panel discussions can be in topics which could be from publishing, how to publish a paper, or even alternative careers in science. Therefore, we can gain useful perspectives from people belonging to different subdisciplines in ecology. Now, on the other hand, the department itself organizes various kinds of talks, and some of the some of them are the seminars. The seminars could include invited seminars or the regular seminars. Student give talks at all times. There are colloquiums, there are thesis presentations. Then there are buzz talks. Buzz talks are uh, talks that are particularly given by the faculty at CES, talking about their own research goals, and their published research. Then there is a series called the Voyage of the Beagle series, which includes natural history talks. Natural history is also a very big part of ecology and environment. So we have a natural history about different topics, not just relating to research, but maybe relating to the student community per se. And then there are of workshops, very useful workshops. Workshops can range from topics that such as how to use artworks in your presentations, or let's say what would be a proper posture be like if you are working too much behind the computer screen. So different such workshops that can help you with your research, as well as with things that are that go parallel to your research, are usually they are happening at CES. Now, now with all that research work, the doing those statistics, hard statistics, and doing a lot of field work and all those things, these can lead to some problems as well. At times it can create some problems, but there are people, there are different committees that can surely help you come out of those problems. Now, let me introduce to you the Department Curriculum Committee, or the DCC committee. This helps you reach your academic goals and expectations. So what I mean is, uh, you have a 5-year time for completing your PhD, and you have field work in it. You have to do some lab work also, depending on what research questions you ask, and you also have to do some statistics. You have to prepare your theses. So this committee helps you be on track. It's very easy to lose track of your field work, or lose track of your deadlines, but when the DCC is in place, they keep a track of what you are doing. So if ever you fall short of your expectations, they remind you that you should do this, or you should have completed this. If there is any issues regarding non-completion, for example, let's say you couldn't uh, have a great field season, you missed out on a lot of data, the DCC will help you out figuring out those problems, and keep you on track so that you can finish your PhD on time. Then there is another committee which is known as the Workplace Wellbeing Committee. It's absolutely there is pressure when it comes to academia, because you are designing experiments and getting all the results and publishing your work. So it is common that some stress will come in, but this committee is in place so that you can keep your psychological health in a proper state so that you do not get stressed. The idea of this committee is that your mental health and your wellness is kept on track. So definitely there can be some stress and a lot of work, and it is true for any field, but there are different ways, and there are professionals in fact who can help you out to get out of those stress situations. So this committee usually works towards promoting this psychological well-being. Another very important committee in the institute is the ICASH, or it's an internal committee against sexual harassment. The idea of this committee is to create a healthy working environment. There are people from different regions of India, different backgrounds, different cultures, and so if it promotes gender equality, it promotes uh, no sexual harassment in workplace, so that none of you have any fear or are discriminated against. This committee consists of faculty and student members, and as well as there are professionals who could guide you if you come across any such incident. You can directly reach to them, and they will surely help you come out of this. Then the two most important things apart from the lab and field would be the hostels where you live, because this is one of the integral part of your life. This is a place where you do a lot of thinking, you generate ideas, and also it's a place where you are in among your friends, which is very essential. The other place is the mess. Again, it's a place where you are among your friends, and these things work as a much needed break that you would require in between work sessions, be it in the lab or in the field, wherever you're working. A mess, or the place where you eat food, is a time that you use it as a break time from a break session from all your different work, and from all the different research that you're doing. So there is one question that always comes, like, is there any opportunity to also pursue other interests other than research? Well, yes, absolutely. You can pursue other interests along with your research. With the proper time management, you can definitely take up some of your hobbies, which can be a great stress buster at times. So we have the Gymkhana facility at IISc, which provides opportunities for indoor and outdoor sports. You can engage yourself in different sporting events within the institute, across the institutes, and can pursue your different interests as well. Also, you can be a part of different clubs at IISc. There are different clubs for music, for dance, for drama, as well as they also organize annual fests. There are clubs for even for literature, poetry, for photography, for even public speaking, one of the very important skills that a PhD student should have. So you can engage in such clubs and work towards, this could be a place where you can forget about what research you're doing and just enjoy what you would like to do in your free time. And this could be a stress buster for many. Moreover, the institute itself also actively promotes some of the events on particular days. For example, let's say for Independence Day or the Earth Day, you have different activities that the institute organizes. So it could be from, like, say, Freedom Run, which is a Fit India initiative. Also, they invite different renowned artists from around the world to perform at IISc. There are different competitions such as quiz competitions or essay competitions, where also you can engage and pursue your different other interests other than doing research in the lab or in the field. So just to conclude, I hope Prannoy, Kanika, and Kajal has given you a glimpse of what a life of PhD you can expect if you join PhD, if you're doing a PhD. And I think what you should take away is that there's possibility of everything. It's not just about doing research, reading papers, and doing stats in front of computer screens. It's not just that. It's also, you can include different other aspects. You can include the cultural aspects, explore sports, explore all the different things with the proper time management. It is very much possible. So there are different opportunities that are given to you by the department, by the institute. Now it's up to you how you use them, what you welcome in your life, and what you decide to stay away from. So with that, I'll just end here. And thank you for the patience. Thank you all. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can either post it in the chat or raise your hand and can question.
I'm popping in now for a minute of it. Thank you, everybody. Kanika, Kajal, Avik, and Prannoy for sharing your perspectives of what it's like as a PhD student here at ISG with our department. And for those of you who are on YouTube and watching or here right now with the Zoom meeting, please use this opportunity to pick the brains of our PhD students. Ask them any questions that you have about how these, what their lives are like. They've given you their perspectives, but it would, but this is your chance. This is your chance to have them all here right now. So do ask us or ask them what it's like. I'm not sure who's checking the YouTube feed. I hope someone is, just in case there are questions there.
Yeah, I am.
Excellent. Thanks, Kanika.
Yeah.
Okay, while you think about questions, let me say a few words to wrap up the session for the day. First, thank you so much for joining us. I hope the day was interesting and informative in ways that you hadn't initially expected, and that you've now left with things to think about. Not just the science, but what it means to be a PhD student, what is their lives like, and the way to apply for our program or any program across the country. That was our hope, that you would get perspectives from the students as well as the faculty on what it means to be a scholar. What will happen between now and next week is that you will receive an email from us with links to all the videos from the various labs that we have in the department, or at least most videos. of the various labs in the department, so the PIs themselves can tell you what we do and what it is that we think about. And we'll also send you a form to fill up that will ask you to tell us who you'd like to meet. We're going to schedule next Sunday, or next Saturday, in a way that there will only be time for you to see 3 faculty. And that's just, there's just no time in the afternoon to do more than that. And so look at those videos, orient yourself based on what your interests are, so that you can pick the faculty that you most want to meet in that time. Okay, and so that's what you're going to get from us between now and next Friday. And that's all I have to say, and I'll leave it at that. Kanika?
Maria, there's a comment on YouTube.
Of course. Okay.
It says, I'm a MSc Wildlife student at a university. Can you please share the opportunities to intern at CES?
Opportunities to what at CES? Sorry.
Intern at CES.
Oh, I see. I guess I could answer that question. There are plenty of opportunities to intern, and the way you approach that would be to email faculty and email students, in fact, in the department. But a combination of emailing faculty and emailing the labs to find out what kind of science is happening, and whether those internships are open, whether the labs are open to having new people come aboard, and whether those internships are paid or unpaid. So I think in the earlier session, there was a discussion about seeking internships, and this is going to vary from lab to lab. So not all labs have openings all the time. So the only way to find out would be to send us an email.
Yeah, there's a follow-up. And it's by Divya Mittal. She's asking, are there any internship opportunities for MSc passed out students? I don't think it differs, right? I mean, I don't, for people who have completed their MSc, so is it different for?
There's no difference.
Yeah.
There's no difference at all, whether you've completed or you've done your master's. And internships and internship. Yeah. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
Not on YouTube.
All right. All right. Then you know how to reach us. You've now sought us out online to apply for this, and you know our email addresses. So if you have questions, do write to the Inclusive Ecology email account, and let us know if that question is directed to students or directed to faculty. And what we will do is we will shuttle it in the right direction. And so with that, that's all I have, and I think that's all our PhD students have. Am I right, guys? Do you want any passing thoughts before we wrap up? Oh, can we enter CS by UGC Net Environmental Science? Yes. That's a question on the chat box. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, have a good evening and a wonderful weekend, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.